Why hello there video gamers, I'm Gnome Chomsky and this is WePlayGames. Today's video is going to focus on me teaching you how to knife in Call of Duty. This video is going to be tailored a lot towards Black Ops 2, but the tips and tricks that I'm giving you guys are going to be able to be applied to pretty much every Call of Duty game and just about any first-person shooter game that you can knife only in. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, of course, as many of you may assume, we have to start with creating a class. Creating a class is one of the most important parts about knifing only. You're going to have to choose which knife you're going to utilize most. There are 3 knives in Black Ops 2. One is just the combat knife, which when you don't equip a weapon is the default, thing that your character holds. And that has its benefits. There's also just, the classic knife that you can just press the knife button when you're holding a gun, and I wouldn't recommend that because you can choose to use the other 3, which are all better than just the classic knife. So yeah, there's the combat knife, there is the tactical knife, which you can equip to a secondary weapon like I have equipped right now. That's what I like to use, and I'll get more into that later. And you have the ballistics knife, which is essentially just as good as the normal combat knife, but you can shoot ballistic knife at people, which, depending on your concept of what knife only is, you can apply or not apply, but yeah. So of the 3 knives, the combat knife and the ballistics knife have the largest reach, so you have that lunge ability when you're using those 2 weapons. What I prefer about the tactical knife is it's fast. It's really fast, and you can hit multiple targets in a room, which is great for, spawn killing and stuff like that. The drawback to the tactical knife, though, is it takes up 2 points in your 10-point create a class system. So right there, you're gonna lose a extra perk that you can apply. Instead of having the tactical knife, you can have perk 1 greed and a second perk 1. Right. So yeah, that's really the basics of creating a knife only class. Is you have to choose which knife you want to use and focus the rest of your class around that, like perks and equipment. My current loadout includes the perks of lightweight, cold-blooded, dexterity, and dead silence. I also have equipped the combat axe and the shock charge, which are really good at incapacitating the enemy at a long distance, which is one thing that a knife-only class lacks a lot, for obvious reasons. Now, the most debatable thing about my loadout is the inclusion of the assault shield, which is, like the riot shield in other games. I essentially use it to put it on my back and absorb bullets, and of course, depending on what your description of knife only is, you can agree with me or not in equipping the assault shield, but I know that thing has saved my butt way too many times to count, and I think it's really, really good for the class. Now, I think that's enough talk about what my loadout is and what class you should choose. I think we should move on to the actual tips and tricks for being a successful knife only person in Call of Duty. Knifing only in a first-person shooter is a primarily psychological game. This turns into a change from focusing on reflexes to imagining what your enemy is going to do and counteracting that with knowledge of the map and how they can shoot you. So my first tip would be map knowledge. Know the map front and back, know where the open areas are, stay away from them at all costs, and know where cover is at all times. Because if you're stuck with a completely open area and an enemy directly in front of you, you need to be able to dive to cover as quickly as possible so that you can get the jump on them later on. And that segues into my next step, which would definitely be patience. You have to be very patient when you're knifing only because, they have the upper hand automatically because they have a gun and you don't. So you have to be patient enough to wait a long time for an enemy to go around the corner or step up and reload, and that's when you have to take the opportunity. That's when you have to move in and strike. Imagine you're running around the map and you find an enemy who starts shooting at you really quickly. You dive behind a rock and he continues to shoot. You have to be patient enough to wait for him to empty his clip, wait to reload, run out and kill him. That's one of the most important ways to kill an enemy. Another thing too is if you get shot at, you need to choose your battles. You could choose to run around, wait around the corner, and I'm pretty sure 10 times out of 10, the enemy's gonna go chasing after you because he realizes, oh, this is a knife-only guy. So you wait for him to come around the corner, knife them, and then you're good. Like, it's that easy. This is a really, really huge psychological game with all the people you're playing with. And you need to take that in consideration. You need to think like your enemy and counteract his movements. Now, these have all been tips about frontal combat. Most of knifing only takes place behind enemy lines, so you have to get behind the enemy as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And that's, just a tip in itself. I don't really know how to elaborate on that tip, but I can talk about teammates real quick. Teammates on almost every level are a hindrance to you, but you can use them because they are a hindrance to you. Use them as bait and as an efficient way to predict where the enemies are located, because usually where your teammates are, your enemies aren't. So in terms of bait, when you see a teammate shooting an enemy, of course that enemy is going to be preoccupied, and that's when you can take your chance to move in from the side and swoop. I don't even know if this should be said, but never ever enter an enemy's line of fire. Always try and come in from like a 90-degree angle from where he's shooting. And as often as you can, try to avoid clusters, because, there are just going to be enemies trying to get free kills shooting at the cluster of teammates, and if you're in there, you might get killed. The only other way that teammates are helpful is when you're biding time, because, Call of Duty is a very fast-paced game, and biding your time can be a very efficient tool in a knife-only arsenal. If you're pinned by an enemy behind cover, just try and prevent them from killing you as long as possible, because, Call of Duty is a fast-paced game, and your teammates will very often save you. And as inept as I think pretty much everyone else in this game is, and I'm not trying to sound snobby, but, there are times when your teammates can't help you, but you sort of have to coax it out of them. So final bit of advice, just summing up, is practice. You need to get a feel for what the range of your knife is and what the reach of your knife is. And the more you practice, the faster your reactions are going to be, and the more you're going to be able to think like the enemy and counteract their movement. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the game. Hopefully this helped you guys at least a little bit in learning how to knife. I'm not really good at voicing what my head is thinking, but hopefully it helped you guys. If you did enjoy the video, please give me a like, leave a comment down in the comments section, and thank you very much for watching. This is WePlayGames. Until next time, this is your host Gnome Chomsky signing off.